Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Juliet and I am a post-college graduate vlogger, and today I am actually making my first adulting 101 video, and it is all about how to start your very own emergency fund. It's kind of ironic because, right now in our world we are in this crazy pandemic, and talking about building an emergency fund while we're currently in a global emergency is, pretty ironic. And I know that, right now may not be the very best time for you to start making an emergency fund, but, definitely if you are starting in the adult world, it is a good idea to start thinking about these things so that once we do get out of this situation, you can start making this your top priority financially for yourself and your own future security. I also want to give a disclaimer that while I am making an emergency fund video and I'm hoping that this is helpful for y'all, I really want to make it apparent that I am not a personal finance guru. I don't have a degree in finance. I don't have a degree in economics. I am just giving my personal opinion and advice when it comes to building an emergency fund. I personally, a little personal backstory, I have been saving since I graduated from high school. That's when I really started to take saving seriously. Of course, there were definitely some bumps in the road. I wasn't perfect. I definitely spent money in my emergency fund when I shouldn't have. I am definitely not rich. I am definitely not anywhere close to, having a net worth of, 6 figures or anything like that. I'm just coming at you as real as I can be about building an emergency fund. These tips and tricks have definitely helped me create an emergency fund for myself. So, I really hope that you find this video helpful. And, if you, disagree with anything in this video or you have tips, I definitely encourage you to leave them in the comments so we can all help each other build our own emergency funds. But without further ado, let's go ahead and head into the video. According to Google, an emergency is a serious, unexpected, and often dangerous situation requiring immediate action. So part of this definition that I really want to highlight is the unexpected part. Basically, your emergency fund is this very sacred amount of money that you are only going to dig into if you are in a very unexpected situation that you were unable to plan for. You had no idea it was going to happen. It just bam, wham, it happened to you. And it's a very unfortunate event that occurred for you. Get into a car accident. You have a medical emergency. So, maybe one day your appendix decides to just get irritated and you have to go to the hospital suddenly to get your appendix removed. That's definitely an emergency. A loss of a job, you get laid off, you get fired unexpectedly, or you're in a pandemic. That is a perfect emergency. Emergency funds are defined differently by different people. You are your own individual person. You know your finances the best. For most people, your emergency fund should be about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Now, Dave Ramsey, who is, a personal finance guru, I believe, he recommends that if you are in debt, you should start with an $1,000 emergency fund. $1,000 is not going to do much for you. Regardless if you have debt or no debt, I think the 3 to 6 months rule is your best bet in terms of survival, security. I'm currently editing the video that you're watching, but I wanted to pop in and just restate how important it is to have an emergency fund that is greater than $1,000. I was actually reading an article from CNBC News, and the article was published back in January 2020, and it basically states in the article that the average emergency for Americans is about $3,500. That is insane. Like, $3,500 is somebody's living expenses for just 1 month, or even 2 months or 3 months. Like, that is so much money for just a one-time emergency, or even like a long-term emergency like we are right now, this pandemic that we're in. So I cannot state how important it is to try to build up your emergency fund as much as you can. Of course, you know, that 3 to 6 month goal is going to really solve most of your problems. But, you know, if you can build it up even more than that, it's really going to make a difference between you struggling and being worried all the time versus having some comfort that you have money that you can kind of, you know, make last through the emergency time period. Let's say your monthly living expenses are $3,000. For you to be able to cover a 3-month emergency fund, you need $9,000. If you want to, you know, go the extra mile and have a 6-month emergency fund, then that would be an $18,000 emergency fund, which I know is a ton of money. Like, trust me, that is a big amount of money. That is money that could go to a down payment on a car. You could probably buy like a boat or something. You know, it's a good amount of money just for you to have just kind of sitting in an account not doing anything. But you know, when it comes to an emergencies, you're gonna want that money for sure. So now let's talk about how to actually create or start your very own emergency fund. Your first step is to set up a separate bank account at your current financial institution, or create a new bank account at a new financial institution. You have to think about, if you're in an emergency, you want this money to be easily accessible. So that's why I would recommend opening it up in the same financial institution you hold your own checking account already in. But, you know, maybe you're not part of the best financial institution, so it may be advantageous for you to open up a brand new bank account in a different financial institution that, you know, doesn't have, you know, fees attached to it. Also, it may be a good idea to open up a emergency fund in a separate or new financial institution, because it will be less tempting for you to access that money. But again, you want this money to be easily accessible. You don't want to be jumping through hurdles if you need this money in a crunch. The next step that you need to do is start to put this emergency fund into your budget. So hopefully you already have a budget that you know how much you should be spending on rent every single month, how much you should be spending on food, gas, utilities, entertainment, etc., etc. If you don't already have a budget, then I would definitely suggest you start looking at your finances, start looking at where your money's going, and start making yourself a budget, just to, give yourself a working list, an idea of what's happening to your money. Because if you have no idea where your money is going, what you're doing with your money, you're just waving cash around like it's no big deal, then I would definitely suggest back it up, make a budget, and work your emergency fund savings into that budget. Start saving, start putting money into your emergency fund immediately. As soon as you get your next paycheck, go ahead and put some money into your emergency fund. There are definitely different ways that you can allocate money towards your emergency fund. I personally, because I am an hourly worker, I don't know my exact income every single paycheck or every single month, because sometimes I work 35 hours a week, sometimes I work 37 hours a week. And while I do know my hourly amount of money that I'm earning, it's just, when you have a variable income, sometimes you can't really set aside exactly an exact amount every single paycheck to put towards your emergency fund. If you are an hourly worker or you have a variable income, I would definitely suggest taking a percentage every single time you get paid and put that percentage into your emergency fund every single paycheck. My general rule of thumb is that I put 20% of each paycheck into my emergency fund. And that's worked out amazing for me. I don't have to worry about it. I know that, I've already committed myself that this is 20% of your paycheck. It's in my budget. I know it's going to happen. I don't even think twice about the money. I just put 20% of my paycheck aside and it goes into my emergency fund. Of course, if you have a very tight budget or you don't get a lot paycheck to paycheck, or you just can't really, think of a way for you to be able to set aside 20% of your paycheck towards your emergency fund, don't feel bad about it. There's, everybody's financial situations are different. 20% is just something that works for me. If you need to, and especially if you're just starting to save money, it's okay if you start slowly into this, because again, it's a lot of money that you're trying to set aside. But, just try to come up with a percentage that you can commit to every single paycheck and just make it a habit. Another way you can put money aside for your emergency fund is to put aside a very certain amount every single paycheck. This works probably better for those who are salaried and who know exactly what their paycheck will look like. Going back to the $3,000 example, if you know you get paid $3,000 each paycheck, maybe you set aside that $600 amount every single paycheck and put that into your emergency fund. Now let's go into some tips for saving for your emergency fund. The very first tip that I have for you is probably the most important one. It is all about changing your mindset. So I think, depending on how you grew up, you will probably have a different mindset about money. Some people have this saving mindset and some people have this spending mindset. Definitely growing up, I was in the very spending, gotta spend, gotta get materialistic things mindset. Spending money, getting the item made me super happy when I was younger and I was growing up and I was, I guess kind of naive about finances. But then I started thinking about how important it would be to set aside some money. And I started trying my best to change my mindset and start altering my mind to a more saving mindset. This definitely takes a very long time. Changing your habits, changing your mindset, it's a very long journey. Some ways that you can really help yourself alter your mind to want to save more money is, and these are going to be really cliche, but when you are online shopping, just put the items that you want in your cart and then just exit out. This is probably the best strategy because you're gonna figure out after some thinking and pondering about these items that you put in your online shopping cart that maybe you don't really need those items at all. Stop impulse buying, stop yourself, just exit out, remove that temptation. Another thing you can do is that if you're shopping in person, maybe you're going to the mall or the grocery store, make yourself a list and get into the habit of just sticking to the list. Just be very intentional about what you're buying and, think about whether or not you have something similar at home that you could use instead. You can make your money stretch further by just not buying things you don't need. Also, from a very psychological point, just realize that material gains and the joy that comes from new packages is just a very temporary moment, and that what is basically happening is that your mind is playing tricks on you. So just recognizing your thoughts and your feelings when you get a new item, and just trying to separate yourself from that almost that high feeling you get when you get something new or buy something new. So my next tip is to actually change who you follow on social media, or even take a break from social media. Social media is a great tool, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can definitely connect with your friends and family, especially during this time of social distancing, but it's also pretty toxic to your wallet if you follow a lot of influencers who are constantly pushing out products. They're doing a lot of like clothing hauls or beauty hauls or whatever. It can really kind of intensify the need to impulse buy. Whether it's taking a week off, which I know is a long time, but if you can take a week off of social media, kind of separate yourself from those people who literally influence you to buy products, you may find yourself spending a lot less money and changing your mindset to, be saving a lot of money, recognizing, oh wow, I've been buying a lot. How would it be different if I started saving? Maybe being just more intentional of who you follow on social media, maybe going on a little unfollow spree, and just, try to figure out which influencers are really toxic to your wallet and maybe unfollow them for a little bit. I know on Facebook, you can like snooze people for like 30 days. So if that person is like really making you want to impulse buy, maybe snooze them for 30 days and just, see if that changes the way you spend money. Another tip is to set smaller goals. I know that setting aside 3 to 6 months worth of emergency funds is a lot of money. Like, don't get me wrong, that is so much money. But for you to make your emergency fund a reality, you have to set small goals. You can't just look at $18,000 and be like, whoa, that's so easy, I can do that overnight. Like, no, you're gonna start getting burnout. You're gonna start wanting to dig into your emergency fund for fun things. You're not gonna wanna commit to this savings. So set small goals for yourself. So, let's say you're trying to get an $18,000 emergency fund together. That's about 6 months worth for somebody who has $3,000 of living expenses per month. And, start with your first $100. I just want to save $100. Then, double that. Okay, now I want to, get $300 now. Okay, got $300. Let's go for $500. Just keep on making these small, tangible goals for yourself that makes you want to save more. And because who doesn't like reaching their goals? Who doesn't like checking off something off of their, to-do list? Same goes for saving money. You make small goals, you obtain them, and it just makes you want to get more and more and more. And then before you know it, you're gonna make your emergency fund goal. Another tip is that if you are not used to this whole savings habit, if you're just, you're always spending as much money as you can, you need to kind of almost like get your toes wet a little bit when it comes to saving money. So I definitely would recommend for you to start with a roundup bank account. There are a lot of different options out there. I personally have used Roundup Savings when I first started, and it was kind of nice just seeing how like really small amount of change can add up over time. Another tip is to just be forgiving of yourself. I know that when you are first saving up, especially for an emergency fund, it can be very tempting to use that money for other things, more fun things probably. And it's okay if you slip sometimes and go into that account for something that is not necessarily an emergency. Or it's okay if you also have an emergency and you kind of set your emergency fund back and you weren't able to obtain that 3 to 6 months goal. Just forgive yourself. You know, take care of yourself first and then get back to saving for your emergency fund. It's definitely okay to not be perfect on this journey of creating an emergency fund. Things happen, life happens, emergencies happen. And that's why you have your emergency fund to fall back on during this journey of getting to 3 to 6 months worth of emergency funds. Last but not least, just remember the end goal is for financial security during emergencies. At the end of the day, having some financial security is going to make your life so much easier mentally, emotionally, physically too. So thank you so much for watching this video about how to start your own emergency fund. I really hope that this all made sense and it was helpful for you. I know that, becoming an adult is a very big transition because now you have all this power and responsibility over your life, and if you also have a family too, it's just a big world to be in when you are an adult. But starting with building an emergency fund is definitely a very top priority that I hope you are invested in for yourself and your own peace of mind and financial security. If you do have any questions about building an emergency fund, please leave them in the comments down below. I will try to help you as much as I can. I will also leave links down below that goes into how to start an emergency fund. It will list resources for different bank accounts that are that don't have any fees attached, my sources that I use to make this video as well, and just anything else that I find helpful or could be helpful to y'all. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have y'all here, and I hope you all stay safe and well during this time, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye!